And just so you had that concept of traveling through. So you got this fellow traveling through each one of the other concepts. And he's actually going to travel through his own concept when we get to 21. But see, first you had consciousness. Well, all consciousness is thought. See, that's what God was, you know, when it was everything nothing. When there was nothing else. See, but and now you got this concept of Beth. And see, Beth is not expression, but the ability to witness duality.
To witness what? Duality.
Duality. The ability to recognize the binary. It's like a throat without a tongue. It can't do anything itself, but it's the channel through which consciousness can manifest. Now we're dealing with hard esoteric hermetics. If you wanted to look at it from the physical side, you know, you'd have Eve, and then, Adam, and then Eve would be the channel through which they produce a child. You see what I mean? It's the... but the book, the Tarot book, is designed for a spiritual path. It's not designed for reading cards or anything like that. But on your spiritual path, you have to be able to control your body. If your body's not healthy, it's going to create enough concern or disruption that there's no way you're going to go anywhere. So the first thing you have to do is heal your body. Okay, we got all healthy people here. We're lucky. But the concept of Beth, I've got a few notes up here. It's like, do you know the difference between meditation, contemplation, and meditation, contemplation, and concentration? Now, there's frequently an argument in the Eastern theosophies that contemplation ought to be first and meditation ought to be the trinary. But the way I explain it, meditation first, contemplation second, and concentration third. In other words, concentration is as far as you can carry it in physical space. Meditation is basically the beginning of it. That's just like anytime you say an Our Father, anytime you pray to whatever you pray to, that's a meditation. Or if you're sitting down doing a mantra, right, that's meditation. But when, it's just meditation. Om Mani Padme Hum, whatever the hell it is. That's meditation. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy. That's meditation. That's something you're doing in order to assist you in getting your consciousness into a nice space. Contemplation is when you sit down and contemplate on one thing. Easy analogies would be like, well, I have another job offer. Do I stay at this job or do I pick the other one? You sit down and you try and get everything else out of your head so you can balance them two concepts within your basic space. But if somebody comes up and pokes you on the shoulder or screams your name, they're going to disturb your contemplation. It's going to bother you, and you're going to answer their question or tell them to leave you the hell alone or something. But, that's contemplation. So you're contemplating it. Concentration, what we call concentration. Somebody could walk up and hit you with a goddamn baseball bat. You wouldn't know it. When you're concentrating, there is nothing except that thing you are concentrating on. Your body is surviving totally on autonomics. Your body is surviving just totally. It's breathing by itself. It's doing these other things. It has no defenses. You're very, very vulnerable from a physical level. But concentration is that extreme focus to where nothing else really exists. It is everything you see, smell, taste, hear, and feel at that time. Now, in dealing with this concept of Beth, it's important to recognize that. So, your ability, your functionality in using this channel that allows you to express consciousness, it can be something you just think about. Oh, I think Jesus is the only Son of God. Or I think Buddha is the right way. Or whatever. You see, meditation is almost like a prejudgment. Meditation is almost like prejudice. It's saying, this will help me get there. See? Contemplation is when you're looking at two sides of things going, how will I get there? And concentration happens once you've actually made an abstract, hardcore decision that this is the way I'm going to do it, and you focus on it so much that that's the only thing in your space. So you have this trinary here. The card itself presents the first binary. You know, the magician Alf, there wasn't any binary there. The closest thing to the binary was as above, so below. It's just consciousness. It's the ability to think, the ability to control, but you can't control anything if you can't express it. So you need a channel of expression, and Beth is the throat. Beth is the channel through which you can express. The first hardcore binary, the two pillars on the side of the card, red and black. Use indigo instead of black. Back when the book was written, there was still a lot of scientific dispute about, in fact, in some circles, it still goes on today, about the actual schematic of the refraction index of a prism. Indigo is almost black, and it's past the purple. But so you've got these two extremes, so it allows you, hopefully with a little contemplation, to decide if you wish to express it as a belief or a fact. Now, you cannot express anything as a fact if you have not experienced it. But if you lean towards that side, the concentration side, instead of the meditation side, it means you're looking for the experience. You're trying to reach the point of concentration on your, in the Tarot, in my process as a spiritualist, as I work with you folks, the process is to try and give you the ability to occasionally become higher self, your Atman, your monad, your astrosome, to the point that nothing else exists during those short periods of time when you're concentrating on it. It becomes everything you see, smell, taste, hear, and feel. And it is not capable of lying to you. I can lie to you. We can lie to each other. Your higher self cannot lie to you. And this is the beginning of the process. This is the beginning of your ability to enhance your reality, to make what you see, smell, taste, hear, and feel constantly and irrevocably support your path towards achieving higher self. This is the beauty of Beth. And the Old Testament of the Bible starts off Bada Sheet Bada. The first two words start with Beth. In the beginning. Bada Sheet Bada. See? The first expression. Now, in the ancient Masoretan, in Hermetics, we have a tendency to translate that to before the beginning, but it's irrelevant. It's just a matter of semantics. Bada Sheet Bada, in the beginning. Beth, Beth. The ability to express it. See? The consciousness is back here. Now we have the ability to express it. I'm assuming everyone read the chapter. So then we run into several abstract concepts when we deal with this. See, this is one of the chapters where I don't really have to change very much at all because it's so clear and it's so easy. It's difficult maybe to get your mind around, but it's really not. But it is the most important because without some grip on it, it's almost impossible to get into, Gimel, Daleth, to get into the more other concepts because they're all expressed through this. Just like Shin is the traveler that's carrying concept to concept to concept. Without this concept here, there's no ability to express it. Part and parcel of this concept, when you deal with those binaries, this first binary, is the trinary that we covered in consciousness, how you balance. Birth, death with life, how you black, white with gray. Do you see what I'm saying? I mean, it's expressed through this. And this allows the recognition of the binaries, but it goes one step further. If you really, really take your time with this chapter, and I'm here, and I mean, you're all on the blog. You can, if there's something in the book you don't understand, you send a private message. It's better if you send it public so everybody else may have the same problem, not quite realize it. But it's like, this is the concept that allows you to minorly, outside of karma, control your future. This is the one that lets what you do now predicate tomorrow or next week. This is the one where you turn around and all these little exercises we give you as we get further into the book to where you can create a stable environment to pursue your path. This is the one that's necessary. This is the one that allows you to do it. This is the one that actually allows you to change yesterday. It's a lot easier to change the past. See, you change the past in order to create the future. I know it gets a little confusing, but as when we get into Gimbal and Dallas, you'll get the grip on it. It's really easy. Government changes the past all the time. Government changes the past all the time. I mean, how many kids' history books still say that George Washington's plantation wasn't cotton, it was pot? He grew hemp. Of course, they used it to make rope and stuff. But he also used it, talks about it in his memoirs and stuff. It's not, do you know what I mean? But that's not in the history books. Hell, the state of Texas just changed a bunch of their history books where they're talking about some of the racial conflicts and civil rights stuff and stuff. They actually changed the books. They did that. They did that a year or two ago. And because they buy so many books, a lot of other schools in other states that don't buy many books get stuck with their books. You see, it's easy to change yesterday. It's really easy to change yesterday. And by making minute changes in yesterday, you definitely, and adding today's concentration, you definitely control tomorrow. So it's a pretty important chapter. Okay? Then they get into turbulence. See, all of a sudden, he's got the thing spinning. Remember the revolving tree and the counter-revolving tree, Philippa? You were around that. And all of a sudden, the damn thing is spinning. This isn't one of the ways you control it with these turbulons. See, these turbulons are just spinning energy. Remember your basic high school math. Or just think, if you take a bungee cord and wrap it around a rock or a baseball, and you spin it like this, it's fine. The faster you spin it, the more it stretches the rubber band. The kinetic energy and the speed force it to stretch out the rubber band. You see? So a turbulon is sort of like that. You have this active and passive principle, and they have to spin. You got to get them moving. See, without movement, you don't have time, so the space they take does not have a binary. You got it? You got to have a binary. See? Time and space. See? So, you're spinning it. Well, the faster you spin it, the longer the rubber band gets. So, just picture it like the active and passive stretching out. Now, what happens if you stretch the rubber band too far? It snaps, right? See? And if the rubber band snaps, what happens? You die. You die. You're done. You're done. You're done. You lost it. Right. If the rubber band snaps, you blew it. You pushed it too far. Do you see what I'm saying? So that's, but see, this is the binary. And that trinary is that middle spot that you really want. Sort of like when we use the right triangles and where you could move along that seesaw thing and stuff like this. See, this is your choice. But by understanding the trinary of meditation, contemplation, and concentration, that's how you control the flow. How much thought you are capable of directing at any given thing is how much control you're allowed to have over that turbulent. See? So, we definitely don't want to spin that thing real fast. I mean, we don't want to speed time up. We don't want to speed time. But we want to spin it fast enough that it can maintain a horizontal to that vertical cross. To that spiritual physical. See, that's vertical. Nobody has a problem with that. The only problem with them is desire, greed, things like this create so much weight in your monad that you're sort of stuck on the bottom end of the cross, the part that's planted in the dirt. So you got to lighten up a little bit. See, so you can get all the way up there. But you still got to go through that turbulence. You're going to go through that active passive place. Now, let's just be a little bit sensible. I mean, it's hell if your vertical path is not the top of that cross, Kether, your higher self, God, Buddha, whatever you want to call the damn thing. If that isn't your goal, it's harder than hell to get through that turbulon if you're off even 10 or 12 degrees. You know, the only way through that turbulon is right in the middle of it. Just picture a cross. Just picture that cross. You know, it ain't like this, it ain't like that, it's like that. You know, you can get up to that turbalon without any trouble. But if you're going to get through it, you got to do it in the middle. This is the card, this is the concept that allows the beginning of that ability. Without this concept, you can't get through the turbalon. This is the true active and passive. This is the absolute binary. This is the real powerhouse. It's sort of like, it would be very, very difficult to get from Houston, Texas to Tucson, Arizona on foot. Yeah, let's see, 25 miles a day for 10. Walking, if you walk 25 miles a day, believe me, that's a lot. Probably take you a quarter of a year. See? In an automobile, you can do it in less than 24 hours. In an airplane, you can do it in 2. Do you see what I mean? So everything is in consequence to that beautiful thing, contemplation. See? So I want to go to Tucson, or I want to go to Houston. Now, how am I going to go? See, I'm contemplating. Am I going to walk? Shit, no, I ain't going to walk. But I did it on a bike. See, I did it on a bike. They won't let me on a plane. But even if, it still takes less than 24 hours driving time to do it in the car. Do you see what I mean? That's the contemplation part. That's what you're allowed. See, that's what you're allowed. See, now, if you went strict for the meditation side, you could go, oh, well, maybe I can just make believe I'm there and achieve everything I want to do there. Or if you're good enough at the concentration side, maybe you can just teleport yourself there. So those are your extremes. Contemplation's the key. And that's the same thing. If you start doing this with every little aspect of your space, that's the same thing that allows you to control your space. This is where we're going to, this is what we're going to teach you how to control. We're going to teach you how to contemplate. And by the time we're done with the book, you'll actually be able to concentrate. Anybody can meditate. You know, anybody can meditate. You know, we're going to teach you how to contemplate, and you will learn how to concentrate. Isn't this fun? Okay, Felicity.
On the picture of the card, this is just sort of a basic question. What is the significance of the cube that's on?
Okay.
I just sit on a cube.
She's sitting on the cube. Okay, you get the concept. The concept includes chair, but it also includes 6 sides and 6 yadhe vadhes. The top and bottom yadhe vadhe are a little abstract. So you've got the unspoken name of God, you've got the unspoken name of consciousness, you've got contemplation. She has the veil. She has this half veil over her eyes. Things are a little cloudy. She's not too sure what she's seeing, you know. Maybe she needs glasses. Do you see what I'm saying? It's a very concrete concept. The cube represents reality. The cube represents hard physical manifest. The 2 pillars are more important than the cube. Forget the white and use black, but remember, even on our altars, you can't get an indigo candle. It's so dark anyway, we always use black. Just look at it as red indigo. The full spectrum. The full spectrum. The priestess is not meant from spiritual concepts. Now, on the Tales from the Tree, the priestess is Eve. I mean, it's prime feminine. In a spiritual context, what we're dealing with here, it's the ability, the channel of expression. The channel of expression. Kayla just made a comment. You got to remember, Kayla's been studying now for 30 years. The cubes are alike in shape and different in color. Very important. He said, I meant the pillars.
Oh, the pillars.
But he said something that I thought he got. But what I'm saying is, the cubes are alike in shape. If you multiplied those cubes, you could actually use those cubes, the Yad He Vad He, because when you do the Yad He Vad He, if you go Yad He Vad He, Yad He Vad He, Yad He Vad He, all around the thing, see, the top cube has no Va, and the bottom cube has no Yad. So they do represent the colors. But yeah, the pillars are very similar, but the difference is in the color. But the priestess, the Beth concept is the contemplation and understanding or discovery of the entire spectrum.
So when you say the 7 cubes, you need one for each color, right?
There's only 6 cubes. There's only 6 squares, excuse me, that make one cube. Okay, Philippa, ask your question again. I'm sorry.
Okay. It talks about the priestess wearing a cloak to protect her from worldly troubles. Now, is that the same as an individual you have to strengthen your astrosome so that you're not affected by the influx of energy from your environment?
We'll do it very, very simply. You know, you go to the beach in the summertime, if you don't have, nowadays we get sunscreen, but if you weren't covered, you'd sunburn. The protection that we'll deal with here, I know I haven't got to the hermit yet, but those of you that have done the trio, like the Tales from the Tree, the hermit, carries a light for protection when he don't need it. Your protection is mental. Your protection is I am. Has some beautiful situations sometimes when I deal with people where they can't seem to understand that the key is self, but not ego body or greedy self. The key is self. You are God. So isn't everybody else. You are God. That's what makes Hermetic so hard for most people. Say, can't quite understand how they could do that without a distorted ego. That's what we're learning. So it's like the removal of the monad, the removal of the fears, of the angst, the removal of the questions about self. And the ability to become true self. Every self's a little different. The ability to become true self. That's what the whole process is. That's what Hermetics is. Very, very wonderful thing. Imagine. Never questioning self. I mean, it's a wonderful thing. Absolute trust in yourself. Absolute faith in yourself. It's a wonderful thing. Next question. Or anyone else.
Between 2 points of resistance, is that the same as how you used to talk about the fulcrum being able to be moved along?
Absolutely. Just like this. So what I described when I did meditation, contemplation, concentration, see, when you contemplate, you move it. Oh, maybe it's better if I move a little bit towards meditation. Maybe it's better if I move a little bit towards concentration. See, and you have to experience that, and you have to play with that. That's one of the things we'll be going through in the next 8 cards. It's that you have to do that because you have to find where your center is. Everyone's center is going to be just a smooch different. The only way you can climb the vertical, the only place you can pass that turbo is in the middle. But that's not my middle. See, Nancy's middle, Cindy's middle, Inga's middle, Aggie's middle, Philippa's middle, Kayla's middle. They're all different. That's what makes the concept of consciousness, of unity consciousness, so frigging amazing. That we can all be different in the same thing at the same time. That's what makes it beautiful. Just grin, Philippa. Next question.
Books. On discussing that same concept, in the book it says if you choose a point closer to good than bad, then afterwards you'll want to give thanks for the feelings you get knowing that you made the right decision by choosing good. Are you meant to be giving thanks to God or what's the deal there? I didn't understand it.
Basically, and it's a difficult concept, the concept relates to the same thing that I've talked about many times. If you're going to have 10 pounds of good, and that tourbillon is going to continue, there's going to be 10 pounds of bad with it. Nothing can exist without an opposite. Nothing can exist without an opposite. If you did away with male, female wouldn't exist because it would be everything. All humans would be female. So there wouldn't be a word woman or female. It would just be human. Do you see what I'm saying? Nothing can exist without an opposite. Our language is based on opposition. We don't describe things, we pretty much describe what they're not or similar to. A good little test for, oh, by the way, next week we'll have a quiz. I'm serious. And it won't only be about what I talked about on the videos, it'll be about the book, so you can make sure you read the book. But, see, you can't have one without the other. If you did away with war, you wouldn't get peace, neither one would exist. Peace is the opposite of war. You see? It's like, so that's what you're playing with. So what you're playing with as you get into this real difficult contemplation and stuff is, see, you're playing with self. You're playing with self. I mean, the little self is this thing that runs around all the time. The exact center right in there, that's the big self. See, that's what you're doing, you're trying to discover that. That's where the power is. That's where the power is. I mean, That's where the power is. If I'm walking down the street and decide I feel like crossing the street, sometimes I don't even look. I don't even pay attention. I just walk across the freaking street. I've never been hit by a car. You know? It's like that's where the power is. The power is self. The power is self. And you can all do it. Next question. But anyway, we'll let Aggie ask a question.
You were going to tell us about as above, so below.
She's asking about the as above, so below from the first one. It doesn't, as above, so below isn't quite accurate. It's like, they're sort of the same. They're sort of the same. They're capable of being the same. Once again, concentration, you're the contemplator in meditation. You're the balance point of the trinary. You are responsible for it, self, the whole shot. And, you know, it's easy to say, and I run into, I'll give you some real honest statistics. Maybe 1 in 50 people I deal with, I even get to this point. And then I get to this point, and I got 5 or 6 people here, and I'll only succeed with half of you. Not because you don't try, not because you're not capable, not because you don't want to, but because reality, those cubes, is so complex nowadays that all of a sudden you got a sick child to take care of, all of a sudden this pops up, that pops up, that pops up, and your first responsibility is always self and family. As long as you have a problem with any of that, it's really impossible to go until you balance that out. See? When I deal with people and I have people that want to join the groups, the first thing they have to do is achieve a healthy body. You know, we help them do that. But if you're worried about health, if you're worried about stuff like that, it's going to stop you. See, that's why you got to get this contemplation, meditation, concentration thing down. Up there is real similar to down here. It ain't really the same thing. There's no density. Next question. Who?
Right there. How do we protect ourselves from larvae ever attaching to us?
The concept of larvae that he deals with are extremely similar to the emotional things that happen to you in dreams, where they get left there. But larvae themselves are thought forms, just thought forms. They can't hurt you too much. They're just thought forms that are floating around out there in the ether. Okay. Now, they have a peculiar diet. They eat energy. So when an individual starts expanding spiritually and starts using their consciousness spiritually, little trailers come off the edge, sort of like the sun. It's not like solid, like an egg. So these little trailers come off. And as they run around and feed on them. Now, we teach people how to build an egg. You'll be learning that, even though they won't get into it in the book. You'll be learning it next week with Gimel. Inga already has an egg. And Kayla's got a real good one. They're real easy to build. And all that does is stop the larvae from feeding, but building an egg, you have to still be able to expand. So it has to be done a certain way to where it still allows expansion. But those larvae are just, they're not either active or passive. They're not good or bad. They're not anything to be afraid of. I mean, in the next chapter or so, he'll get in there with a trident and stuff like that and stuff. You can do it. That's a mental thing. Nobody expects you to sit there and beat out a piece of metal and draw all these symbols on it and stuff like that. You're supposed to build that thought form. See, it's a thought form. See, you build that thought form, and then you go, So you do it like that. Or you can just as easily go away from me. Go away from me. You can do that. But it's the power of will. See, it's that power of consciousness. And before you can do that, that's why the little trident is a little ways into the book yet. We're still learning expression, we're still learning contemplation, we're still trying to. See? They're there, big deal. You know, some of them are pretty tasty. You know, you ever had a chocolate covered ant? They're not bad. I mean, a big black ants, they chocolate covered. I mean, I'll bet you if you ate one, you'd think it was a raisin. They're there. Nothing can hurt you unless you allow it. Nothing.
There's your next question.
My next question here.
Why would you ever want to concentrate on the devil as it is mentioned in the book?
Oh, Philippa. The devil is such a wonderful frigging thing. You couldn't have Jesus without the devil. You couldn't have Mohammed without Shaitan. You couldn't have Gautama without Avalokiteshvara. You can't have Krishna without Ganesh. You can't have good without evil. Remember the binary? You want to do away with evil, lady? You better be able to get your head around a concept that we call fucking ecstasy. There's no good. Everything is just ecstatic. There's no good or evil. Everything is just so goddamn beautiful. I think you Christians call that heaven. Okay, so Kayla says, similar like the top and bottom of Beth. Thank you, Kayla, by the way. Oh, here, let me use my fancy lights. See the top? Forget this line here, forget the joiner. See the top? See, it's similar to the bottom. They're both horizontal, they're both fat. A little bit of tit here. Top's a little shorter, but they're similar, but they're not the same. Turn this thing sideways or upside down, either way, and you got the two pillars. They're similar, but they're not the same. They're similar. Similar shapes, totally different colors, but even the shapes are a little different. You look up at the top of the pillars, it's a little bit different. Similar, but not the same. See? That's what a human is. We're all similar, but we're not the same. You're looking for the ability to find, contact, and develop yourself. Not someone else's concept of you. You, yourself. Similar, but different. if a future cliche is more likely to happen if it is higher up, is it higher because more concentration has been put into it? In other words, she's talking about the vertical line of the cross. If it's closer to Godhead or closer to totality, is it closer because more concentration has been put into it? The best way I can describe that, and believe me, I'm a long way from a scientist, is, you know, I don't know how long ago, but quite a few decades ago, they discovered that a wave and a particle, actually they're opposites, and that high-end physics, they're opposites, you get waves and particles. But it depends on what the researcher wants it to be, whether it's a wave or a particle. Isn't that amazing? I mean, we're into atomic physics. We're in right down there in hardcore nuclear physics. There's all this stuff going on. They got these waves and the particles, and they build this big cyclotron type thing, accelerator they call it. In fact, one of the first ones they built just north of you guys in Houston, a little town called Waxahachie. Really, I mean, this goddamn thing is like 20 miles long, you know, a big 20-mile oval. And it surrounds the town. And they had to shut it down. But when they were doing their research, they get in there. Put the fan in front of it so I get some cool. It depended on what the researcher was researching. The kids from the University of Texas down in Austin and SMU up in Dallas and stuff, they'd be researching all this nuclear physics and stuff. The people that wanted it to be a wave, it was a wave. And the people that wanted it to be a particle, it was a particle. This is fact. I don't understand it. It's physics beyond my mathematical ability. That's fact. You have that same ability in self. Do you want to be a wave or a particle? Which one's better than the other? Which one's right, and which one's wrong? It's up to you. It's up to you. Senna is going to take place with absolute awareness of the very top of the cross and the very bottom. And that horizontal bar on the cross is always 2/3 of the way up. It's not a plus sign, it's a cross. It's 2/3 of the way up. That means you have to be in this body, and it's going to take a little bit of contemplation to maintain the body, even while you're in total contact with self up there. Self ends up right in that little tourbillon, right between the horizontal and vertical band. It'll get easier. Okay, Nancy.
So then the spot on the cross where it passes, would that be your heart?
Absolutely. Absolutely, or just above. See, it's the problem with the Eastern system is they use that green chakra and they call it the heart chakra, which is fine. Your green power center is actually a little higher than that. And the average person's green power center, even if you can get them to 100% emotionally balanced, you know, your first comes all the way to just above your knees, your second comes to a bit above your crotch, your third comes up to here. You know, that fourth, that green thing is only about that wide. Then you got this big blue thing, and then the purple thing, and then the indigo thing. That green thing until you identify self is rather narrow. You know, rather narrow. And that's why I use an example that three of you may know. Inga may know it too. Farrell. Farrell's fourth power center, green power center, is considerably larger than average. And that's what's motivating her to go out and do this other thing. She has something of value to allow people to contemplate. Sort of cute. You see? So Inga is in pretty good shape. And you know, I heard you, even, you know. but you know, Inga, you know, has been letting me yank her cord for a couple of years. You know, I mean, every time I'm in Houston, she's there. You know what I mean? I mean, so, but she's got a pretty good grip on things, and you got to remember, English is their second language. So her comprehension of what I'm saying has to go through a secondary filter. She's, you know, so it's not hard. It's not hard. I mean, it's work. I mean, an individual's got to want it bad enough to work at a little bit, but you know, you don't have to sit in the corner staring at the wall for 4 hours a day. You know? But it's work. But yeah, the cross is also, if you look at it like this, let me do this at the same time. If you do that, so a lot of blue in it. A lot of blue. Which is appropriate, because that's your most powerful power center. 4 of your 5 senses are located there. But see, many times when I have have a client with a lung problem, particularly upper lung, be it tumor or whatever, no matter what, I'll use a blue-green stone, and it'll lean more towards the blues than the green to try and balance it out. But you use the blue-green like an ametrine, blue-green ametrine, because you want to push that green up there, because green is also balanced. See, once you can get that horizontal line going through it, then the individual has control over it, and that's where faith healing works. Somebody can believe all they want, but there's a hell of a difference between belief and faith. I mean, faith is close to knowledge. Belief is the death of intelligence. You know, belief's a killer. But faith's a wonderful thing. So you might say we're trying to give you faith in self.
The turbulum. Is this where we get our creation, where our thought becomes creation?
It's part of it. The tourbillon is the spinning of these two opposites. That's why I use the rubber band thing. Right. If you try to do it too fast, if you try to make it happen too fast, them opposites are going to get far enough apart, and they're going to snap the rubber band. The objective is to keep them horizontal and moving as slowly as possible. For instance, when Philippa's husband, he's one of them martial art guys, he's really into it. Or even when Inga's in her tango class. You actually slow your consciousness down. That's what the martial artist does. And it's like time starts moving so slow, someone's throwing a punch and it's like it's coming like this. and you have all this room to move away from it. So it's the same way you deal with conflict. As you become successful at these processes, if a conflict begins, the first thing you do is make the rubber band a little fatter. You make the rubber band a little fatter by spinning it a little slower and bringing it a little closer in. It slows everything down. It really does. All of a sudden a day will seem 7 or 8 days long. It gets very boring. But it really allows you to manipulate and fine-tune little things that can make your reality very pleasant. The problem humanity has is they develop a desire for something. They want it to happen quicker, so they spin it faster. And all of a sudden they end up with nothing. Whenever a psychic comes along the road to our house, they tell us that they saw a gigantic vortex over our house going into the heavens. Is this something we have somehow generated, and what is its purpose? Was it from our desire to connect to the spiritual? Might as well be. I mean, it's your choice. But if several people have expressed the same thing, you've definitely created something. So to contemplate and decide what you want it to be. Contemplate and decide what you want it to be. It's not hard. A lot of times people deal with situations like this. If something is verified by 2 or 3 people, rest assured, if 2 or 3 people tell you something similar, oracally or something, rest assured there's something going on. It's your decision what it is. It's your decision what it is. This is the whole concept of Beth. It's what we're giving you right now. We're giving you the channel to balance the binaries, create your turbo, start structuring your future. And we're going to go through one concept after another. There are only 22 concepts. I mean, there's the base 22 concepts. There's a lot of concepts that have been subdivided so many times that semantics has become a pain in the ass. But there's 22 base concepts. We're going to go through every one of them. And hopefully, every one of them will be as fun as this one was. I hope everyone enjoyed this one. I hope everybody got the basic drift of what I was dealing with. It's a lot better when I can see auras and stuff. And believe me, it's better than the book. It is the book. It is the book. But it's hard to write something down when you don't know who's going to be reading it. Remember, we got a lot of other classes. There's always stuff going on. Thank you once again, Cindy, Nancy, Inga, Alan, Philippa. I love every one of you. And it's starting to get good.